Let's get started with the linear element tool. There are two types of linear elements, and both work in a very similar way. When you select the linear takeoff element and click OK, and then an element is created. To begin, click once to place the first point. After a second click, the first segment is finished, but the tool remains active, allowing you to continue creating new segments. Each new segment is completed after every second click. This setup is intended for creating individual segments rather than continuous lines. To end the element creation entirely, press the Escape button. Now let's try the multilinear takeoff element. Let's click OK to start. Click on the screen to place the first, second, and third points. As you can see, this tool is for creating continuous linear objects. To finish one object, double-click the left mouse button, then continue clicking to start a new object. You can use the multilinear element similarly to the linear element by double-clicking to end each object. Here are a few more things to know. When you left-click on objects, an edit menu becomes available. In edit mode, anchor points are displayed. You can move them to new locations by simply clicking and dragging them. Then press Escape button to finish editing. Additional edit options include delete, move, rotate, and copy. That covers the basics of linear objects. Now let's delete these elements from the takeoff. An important note: when you delete an object from the screen using the edit menu, it isn't removed from the takeoff list. It's still there, but with a value of 0. To fully remove an element from the takeoff, go to the left panel, click on the three-dot menu next to the element, and select Remove and Confirm. This will completely remove it from your takeoff list. Let's proceed our takeoff for wall footings using the linear takeoff element. First, let's study the drawing a bit. We need to look at section 1, so open Detail page in a split screen. As you can see, this footing is 2 feet 6 inches wide and 1 foot deep. Now go back to the takeoff page and select the multilinear tool. We'll label this footing as WF1. And change its color to brown. Also, we'll lock this color for consistency with future wall footings. Next, we need to create a new group. Click Add New Group, name it Wall Footings, and click OK. Set the width to 2 feet 6 inches and the depth to 1 foot. The top of the footing is given as -12 feet 6 inches. Let's select top from drop-down menu, then type -12 feet 6 as elevation. Material is already checked as concrete with a strength of 4,000 psi and Class B. Let's take a look at formulas. We don't need to adjust any formulas since concrete elements will always be calculated in cubic yards in Haqq Takeoff. And then click OK. Now you'll see our takeoff element displayed in the left panel under the Wall Footings group with a Records button next to it so we can start our takeoff. To begin, try to locate center of the footing and keep clicking at each corner. Don't worry about perfect alignment with the drawing. We can adjust it later if needed. For now, skip any stepped footings. To finish the first segment, simply double-click. Then, start a new segment just after the stepped footing, continuing along each corner until you reach the end. Press Escape to finish. If you need to make any adjustments, right-click on Mouse over Element to open Edit menu. Now you can modify your wall footing takeoff. Let's open the 3D model to review our progress. Previously, we set the base plane elevation to the top of the slab, so the drawing aligns right above the footing. You'll notice the top of the footing is positioned just below the slab elevation, 6 inches down. Now let's add the stepped footings by pressing Play button next to WF1 from left panel. We'll start from the first step, extending under the higher footing by a couple of feet. Since we're using the same footing element, WF1, the 3D model will initially display them at the same elevation. Switch to 2D, select Edit for the stepped footing we just added, go to the right panel, and change the top of footing elevation to -13 feet 6 inches. Click anywhere on the screen to save. Now, back in 3D, you can see the first stepped footing correctly positioned. Next, return to 2D, click the Play button for WF1, and add the next footings, working from the outside in, again extending below the higher footing by a couple of feet. After placing it, click Edit, then adjust the top of footing elevation to -14 feet 6 inches for the second stepped footing. Click anywhere on the screen to save. Important note, if you go to the left panel, open the takeoff form under the Edit menu, and click OK. all WF1 elements will revert to their original elevation of -12 feet 6 inches, as these settings apply to all elements under the WF1 label. We're adjusting the individual elevations, but any global change in WF1 will reset them. To avoid this, you could create separate footing elements for each step, which would preserve individual elevations. However, for now, we'll continue using the same WF1 element. Finally, add the bottom step by clicking the play button. This time, extend it a few feet on both sides to go beneath the higher footing. Click Edit and change the top of footing elevation to -15 feet 6 inches, then click Anywhere to save. Back in 3D, you'll see the stepped footing structure has been nicely created. This is the beauty of Haqq Takeoff. You can visually see what you are estimating, and you will notice any mistake right away. Let's go back to 2D and add reinforcing for WF1 footing. According to Section 1, the reinforcing for the WF1 footing includes 3 continuous number 5 rebars and number 5 rebars spaced 12 inches on center in the short direction. First, open the rebar form by right-clicking on the footing and selecting it from the menu. In the rebar form, direction is already set to X, which corresponds to the continuous rebar layout shown in the section detail. You can look at picture to visualize it. Enter 3 for the quantity, select number 5 rebar from the drop-down menu, add a note labeled continuous, and click Save and New. Next, set the direction to Y to define the shortway rebar. Again, select number 5 rebar from the drop-down menu, add a note labeled shortway, and click Save. Rebar takeoff is done for WF1. Let's open the Takeoff tab to review our progress. Under the Takeoff tab, you'll see foundation and superstructure trades listed, with column footings and wall footings as groups. All quantities cubic yards for concrete and rebar weights are clearly displayed by element, group, and trade. In the next video, we'll cover the takeoff for the remaining footings. You're ready to move on to the next tutorial.